Hello, everyone, and welcome to the January 10th Product Analytics Link. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because you may be able to see it. Then we can go ahead and get started with the build board review. One moment. All right. Hopefully, everyone can see the build board. Let's see if it comes up. Thank you very much. All right, well, we got a couple issues here in open, so we can go ahead and start with those. We have filters for dashboards, date range. I don't think we have anyone assigned to this yet. It's still in solution validation, but as we discussed last week, I believe this is the first of a few different dashboard level controls that you would like to incorporate to override queries in the panels visualizations. So hopefully we can get progress with that and get that started as possible. Apart from that, we have the Spike Shoot 4 Analytics export, which we haven't really dug into as Max is doing funnel analysis, at which point, Max, do you want to speak to your issue for funnel analysis here?
Yeah, I'm sort of trying to build a thing that works here. The biggest issue this time last week was trying to untangle what ClickHouse wouldn't let us do. It turns out ClickHouse has a bunch of built-in functions that like allows you to build funnels, which is really cool. So I've been trying to feel my way around those and understand what we can and can't do with them. And I'll have a video on Unfiltered hopefully later today showing what's been built so far.
All right. We have nothing in design, and looking at planning breakdown, we have the onboarding API to retrieve the state of the project analytics stack, which is an issue that we kind of pushed out of the internal preview, but for the customer preview. That's currently unassigned. Same goes for the column chart rendering widget. And we've also got the planning breakdown issue of updating the learner setup so it actually publishes the packages. Rob, is there anything you wanted to add to this here? I know you're back this week, but yeah.
No, as you say, I'm only just back. I haven't looked at it, but it's on my radar to look at by the end of the milestone.
All right. We've got an issue here that I think we've already, I think I was supposed to close this out at the start. So
yeah, it's done.
Confirming that page, get on to the remaining issue that is blocked. The route 2 tracking codes view once the stack has been initialized, it's blocked, it's visually assigned as well.
You can assign that to me if you like. I'm going to take a look at that.
Yeah, that regarding that issue, that might be only the validation that what we are doing is correct. So it might not involve any dev work, but yeah, I'll sync up with Rob regarding that. And thank you.
Cool. Then you can confirm if that's verified. Go from there. As far as what is ready for development, we have activate Jitsi privacy mode by default, which has no assignee, moving GPC to configurable options. A few different JS SDK items here, I think, ideally we'd want product intelligence to look at, but we could take a look at as far as stretch items in this milestone. Additionally, there is adding stack, the introduction to product analytics docs. This one's a little bit new to me, but I don't know if anyone can speak to that issue. All right, well, we'll just go ahead and skip that then. We've got a couple of other follow-up issues as well, lazy loading the product analytics query designer component, as well as retrieving the product analytics router base URI through the backend. This is assigned to Rob, but the product analytics query designer lazy load doesn't even want to speak to that. That's assigned.
I'm not sure if I'll have enough time to get to that with the other things I've got. With the other follow-up I'm dealing with. Jan's not back till next week. Axel, do you have time to pick that other follow-up up?
I'll probably have time, yes.
Okay, then I will go ahead and change to that.
Thank you, Dennis.
Cool. As far as the product analytics router based URI, Rob, is there anything you'd like to call out here?
It's going to be super small. It's and straightforward. It's just that it's hard coded at the minute, and we can retrieve it from the back end and make it far more dynamic and future safe. So, small piece of work.
Got it. Cool. We've also got the dashboard's audience behavior, which has been merged. That merge request from Tim. So I, as well as Sam, and I'm sure others, will be playing with it in our local environments. I know we discussed a list of follow-ups to add as part of our working session for that. But I'll definitely be doing screenshotting and validating, building some issues coming out of that, so get this all polished up to go. And then we have, unless there's anything else anyone wants to bring up for these dashboards, we can move on to the next issue here. All right, so then we have the add button to go back to tracking view dashboard. Excellent. To add.
Yeah, that has a funny status as it is blocked, but only because it is depending on the issue that I have in review right now. But I was able to move forward with this, and what's basically missing is to rebase what we ended up commenting in the related issue. And so yeah, I plan to jump into this immediately after closing the other one.
Great. This ties into an agenda item I have, but one thing worth calling out is that we got the production GitLab.com integrated with the analytics stack. Unfortunately, we suffered a little bit of a crash, which I'll speak to later on with the Redis server, but I'm working to restore that as quickly as possible. In addition to that, there's the tick issue for the test GitLab instance, but I'm not going to focus on that because of the previous issue that I just mentioned. So no progress there. We have further encrypting the connection details with the analytics stack integration. Next, anything out here.
Yeah, I'm still aiming to get this done for the milestone, but I've just not, with all the funnel analysis stuff, I've been head down in that and I've not looked at this yet.
Got it. Cool. And then apart from that, we have two issues in review. We have tracking codes view for onboarding as well as waiting for the stack setup view. Axel, anything tracking codes view?
Yeah, the reviews came slowly for this one, but we are already waiting for the last maintainer approval. I already got feedback from that, and I applied it. The only thing that is missing is to update a couple of specs. But yeah, no, I'm pretty excited that this is close to merge now.
Awesome news. And then the final issue is assigned to the above and beyond. Waiting for the stack setup view. Anything to add here?
Yeah. First, thanks to Axel and Jan for picking this up while I was on holiday and driving this forward. This had a few minor feedback from the maintainer, which I've responded to today. Yannick is in an EU time zone, so my guess is he'll probably get back to me tomorrow on that, and hopefully he'll get merged.
Sorry, I was looking for the bookmark for the productions. So we've got two. Well, this one's already closed. We discussed that's closed. Should have been closed for some time. So apart from the milestone planning issue, we have one issue that's been closed since our last sync, which is getting the single stat value for the defined measure. Axel, is there anything you wanted to note on this issue?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to give a small ping to Sam that this solved the issue that you mentioned on Slack. So yeah, that was a good improvement there. Thank you for the feedback, Sam.
Thanks for putting this.
Awesome. Then that completes our build board review. Unless anyone has anything to ask or comment on. All right, then I believe Sam, you have the next agenda.
All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about dog fooding for product analytics and a shift in direction we're going to take as opposed to what we had originally for the GitLab org project. The more Dennis and I dug into it, we were starting to figure out there's going to be a lot of work to do specifically around OneTrust, bringing that into GitLab, the application. We already have that in the marketing website, but it's not in the product proper. So we would have to bring that in to do the original dog fooding plan we had. We took a step back and thought about, really the goal of our dog fooding is to get product analytics in a real application, being GitLab.com with higher load, show that we can take larger scale. But this effort was really going to require us to become experts in OneTrust and a lot of the cookie consent, which is not really the core area of focus for our group. So instead, what we're going to do is refocus on something that's going to be a little more simple and more in our hands in terms of being able to execute it. So what we want to do instead is have a specific list of folks that have explicitly opted in to product analytics tracking for the GitLab org GitLab project. And this way we'll still get that larger application scale because everyone uses GitLab.com as part of their daily work. But because we're asking people to explicitly opt in, we don't need to go through all of the same steps we would with a OneTrust and a cookie consent model. We talked with legal about this a number of times, and they're okay with the approach. And the things that they need and that we'll need to do to move this forward is in the issue that I've linked there, we'll start using that as our single source of truth for who is explicitly opted into this process. That issue is going to have steps for if you want to withdraw consent, how you can do that, and what needs to be done once that happens. This is completely optional, but if you'd like to get product analytics tracking on your GitLab or GitLab product activity, please go ahead and add your name and add a check mark there. Again, if you want to withdraw that consent at any point, there's instructions on the issue, but it basically boils down to leave a comment stating that, and then we'll remove the tracking. And so this should allow us to get dog fooding on the GitLab org project much more quickly than our original plan, start getting some of that feedback from an application people use a lot more frequently than the GitLab internal handbook, without having to go deep into the OneTrust implementation approach that we would have had to have done previously. So I just talked a lot. What do y'all think? Any questions, comments, concerns about that?
Sounds sensible to me. And from an engineering point of view, pretty simple to implement as well.
Okay.
Whatever gets us there the fastest is the best route to me.
Agreed. Dennis, you've got the next one.
Thanks, Sam. Just wanted to give a little bit of an update on what's happening infrastructure-wise. I think I last spoke about setting up automated backup store for a variety of things, including our Redis database, ClickHouse data, and such things like that. That's some of the necessary steps that we will need to have checked off as far as our production readiness review, once we're actually able to get this out to customers and more operational in production fashion. Apart from that, as I mentioned before, we got GitLab.com connected to the analytics stack shortly thereafter, and this has happened multiple times. Jitsi Redis server needed to rebuild itself and basically wipes that data. And so I'm working to restore that right now, just so we can continue to collect events on that. But I'm also trying to set up persistence, basically prevent that from happening again. So that's what I'm currently focused on. Pretty important, especially as yes, we're in internal preview now. It's not as critical, but as soon as we get customers, it's a pretty big issue if you don't have that sort of. I think we can all agree with that. So that's just kind of what I've been focused on. I'll have a couple of issues, maybe hopefully follow today to kind of more accurately capture that. But I just want to let everyone know what I've been doing.
Question on that. When the Redis server does reset or need to be changed, do the applications still use the same URL to report to the cluster, or do the addresses change?
Sorry, just trying to understand this question. So as long as the Redis, there's a couple of pieces basically. There's the collector, and then there's the Redis server. And so the collector, whenever it receives an event, checks with the Redis server to say, hey, I have this ID, is application ID that's being sent to JavaScript SDK. Where does it go? And that's where the Redis server then tells the Jitsi server where to store that. That's why we have that ClickHouse configuration. So that's the only thing. That's the only link in terms of collecting data. There are other identifiers like the Jitsi project ID that we use to actually query and then set up the configuration. But as long as we have the IDs, and that's like right now I'm trying to do it properly in terms of restoring the entire Redis data set. But worst case scenario, all I need is the IDs, which we already have. Those are publicly available since we're emitting those in JavaScript events. As long as we have those and they go to the right tables, then that's all we need. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thanks. Because what I was trying to figure out was if I as a user would have to update my application code to report to a new location versus, yeah, things are down, but my app just has to wait a little bit and try later.
Right. Yeah. So as far as like customer interaction, there's no action needed on their part. Once we get like, so basically once the application IDs are restored, then the events will just continue going to where they are. And then there one thing I am trying to figure out is how to restore the Jitsi project ID so that we don't have to reinitialize or reconnect, for example, staging and production GitLab instances with the analytics stack. But I guess in an absolute worst case scenario, you would just have to reintegrate that with a new project ID. So this is all very useful experience because we'll need this documented in a runbook for infrastructure when they eventually come to manage this for us. But just to kind of give you an overview that there's no customer interaction at this point for now.
Awesome, thanks.
Cool. On a more social note, Basti from Product Intelligence has sent out invites and surveys for a team day tomorrow on the 11th. I would encourage those who are interested in bonding with your fellow section members to attend if you can. I unfortunately will not be able to attend it, but I will wish you all a good time. And if there's nothing else, then Tim, you have the next one.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Dennis. And please attend tomorrow. And I know that Basti is already putting together as many social activities as he can. So I just wanted to bring the topic up that went through a couple of issues and summarize everything that was going on around the whole topic. Where do we put a menu item? Which started at this discussion 2 months ago. And there was some conclusion during the last weeks, which is the first point, so that we are going to have and start basically with a menu item which is called dashboards under analytics, and maybe Sam and Dennis, as you had the meeting, can add some more info/content to that one.
Yeah, so I think the left sidebar issue is linked there, which has in the issue description now a visualization to be more explicit about where we want to go with this. And really what this came down to is us getting aligned with Optimize Group and our analytics section direction as that analytics tab is going to be the single source where dashboarding interaction with data is going to live in GitLab, the product. More specifically, our dashboards will be added to a new dashboards screen rather than say specifically product analytics or product. Over the long term, the existing options under that analytics tab, so value stream, CI/CD, etc., will become individual dashboards that also live under the dashboard screen. So really that dashboards option is going to be that single location that customers and users go to for all of their different dashboarding needs. We'll work over time to figure out how this list will grow and how we can best present that to people. Say, maybe you have favorite dashboards, you present those at the top so you don't have to look through hundreds, but we'll do that in the future. In the short term, though, our product analytics dashboards will live in that new dashboard screen. Optimize and other teams will add to that over time and remove the existing ones. In that issue description as well, there's a aspirational vision of what that will look like long term, specifically with all the dashboards condensed. We'll likely have a new screen just for the funnel journeys and funnel analysis, because that's a relatively more complicated workflow than just visualizing data. We'll also have a screen there for experimentation, again, because that's more complex than just visualizing data in terms of setting up the experiments, what changes, what doesn't, cohort selection, all sorts of knobs to turn. And finally, we'll have a configuration screen in both the short-term and the long-term vision. That's where things like setting up the Jitsi, ClickHouse, Cube stack will go. This is also where other teams will add any sort of configuration specific things that they have as well. I know Optimize is working on a number of capabilities that require some configuration. So all of that will live in that single location there. Dennis, anything I missed that you wanted to highlight?
I guess from more of a action item standpoint, in terms of like that centralized dashboard view, it seems like in our case, since we already have a dashboard index view, we would probably use that as our current RPC, since we already have that there, and then everyone else can kind of fold into that. So from a more tactical point of view, I think you know, it's not much more effort to get to that state, and then everyone else can add their dashboards to. I mean, as you'll see from the issue description as well, Sam's put together some mocks, like what are the existing dashboards there for CI/CD and value stream and things like that would eventually be kind of static links, or just we'll figure out the proper way to add those to the dashboard listing. So apart from that, I think Sam covered everything else.
Yeah, which also means that in reality, dashboards are not owned anymore by product analytics, and we will be basically opening it up. And we need to find also, which helps because Matej is the assigned UX designer for Optimize, but he's more and more becoming now the UX designer, of course, for dashboards. But this will mean also that you can add any sort of visualization query component that exists in GitLab to any sort of dashboard, which means especially if you look through the huge ask for these customers, what I linked there is there are tons of asks. This is the #1 asked feature at the moment, ARR connected to. So this is definitely something where I will also open up communication lines to security, especially because this is also a very much asked topic. So that basically execute this, but also teams can build very easily dashboards on their product features to better understand, okay, how many people are using this? How are my DORA metrics on those? And how many security topics do I have, and get everything there in one go. So this is definitely opening up a lot of possibilities and a lot of things overall. Connected to this huge ask is definitely that we want to push for this as fast as possible timeline-wise with Optimize, especially to get this in the hands of customers. The adding dashboards MR, the first one is in the final review at the moment, which is really about that you can move boxes, that you can resize them, and that we have basically the code that is created out of it. Ezekiel from Optimize is also already working on the DORA metrics and more components so that you can add them to dashboards, which is the nice thing. As we have view components, in reality, we tested it already out. It takes an hour and you can add of almost any sort of view component that has already been built to any sort of dashboard. And we need to think about also how to best administrate and build the whole editing experience for those parts. Pavel from Optimize is working on building, he has already done the first MR for project pointers, as I call them at the moment, so that you can basically have, because everything that they want to do is on a group level, and what we want to do is right on a project level. So I asked them for a favor and said, hey, can you, if you have done this just for groups, can you please do this also for projects, so that you can basically configure another project with a repo where the dashboard files then will be stored. Yeah, looking for feedback, especially at the moment, in regards on how we should add components to the schemas. I think this is one of the important topics. So I think Sam also made a great suggestion of how to add this in a nice way. So please take a look at that one, so we can collect this and basically get this shipped as soon as possible to Ezekiel, that he can really start adding that stuff. This is mainly about the fact that visualizations have lived and in their own files and need way more stuff to be configured. And a component, like for example, the DORA metrics, just needs a namespace, so a project or a group, and that's it. And then it creates all the metrics. And I believe that to some extent that our funnels will work quite the same way, and so on. Yeah, and as Dennis said, we need to rework and add the menu item. And the main thing I think that we need to change is rework the whole gate that we have currently in front of the dashboards. But we need to take a look that we basically make out of product analytics dashboards in general as a route as soon as possible. Yeah, and take it from there. But exciting, because this means that really two teams are working along the same way, and the possibilities are really nice. So. Questions? Then Max, over to you for funnels.
Funnels. I'll keep it brief because we're nearly at the end of time. Just wanted to link into the epic that I think only a couple of us have seen so far, where I basically dump what was the contents of my brain while I've been trying to understand how we can use ClickHouse to generate funnels. You can see some pretty pictures and some nice graphs there. And there's one outstanding problem, which is kind of stopping me from getting much further. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, please do input. Otherwise, I'm hoping, Den, if we can set something up and maybe rubber duck that, or Rob, or whoever's available. But yeah, the short version is we should be able to define funnels in files, in projects, and then have Cube dynamically generate the funnels for us, which should be accessible via the standard Cube API. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but it's starting to take shape.
Very exciting.
All right, then reach the end of our agenda. Does anyone have any final thoughts or questions, feedback, concerns?
I feel like I should have questions, but my brain isn't working right now.
Well, if you have any, we're all on Slack, we're all on the issues, so just ping us whenever you need, and we'll see everyone at the later meeting. If I don't see you later this week, have fun at the team day, and take care.
Thanks, folks. Talk soon.